I mourn and cry for this man that lost his life, even though I never met him.
This is Nubia Rodriguez. You may not recognize her, but you almost certainly know the incident she was involved in. 4 years ago, Phoenix officer Paul Rutherford was hit and killed by Nubia's SUV after he ran into traffic without looking. Well, tonight, in an exclusive interview, she tells her story to ABC 15 Chief Investigator Dave Biscobing.
Welcome, everyone. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigations, because recording the police and our public officials in the course of their daily duty shall help us hold them accountable and keep us free. Breaking news, police lie. Well, I know that's not breaking news to you, but I'll tell you what, it's breaking news to a whole bunch of people, because today's story is tragic. It's tragic for a number of reasons. One is there was a man who ran directly in front of a vehicle with a woman who was driving completely safely as she was supposed to, and he ran right in front of her. She had no time to stop, and he ended up dying. However, that's tragedy number one. He made a mistake. I don't know why he did it. It's a shame, and I'm sorry for his family, for their loss. However, here's where the problem started. That person wasn't just an ordinary person that ran into that car. That person who ran into that car was a Phoenix police officer. Well, cops were outraged. They wanted justice. They wanted blood, regardless of whether the person who the police officer ran in front of her car was wrong or not. Now, she was completely innocent. You're going to find out, and you're going to hear more from a TV news story about the details of what happened. But this isn't just a tragedy. It is criminal. What the cops put this woman through to attempt to build a case by lying through their disgusting, piggy blue, thick blue line teeth, that blue line gang. And they put this woman and her family and her friends through hell and back. But you know what's tragic? Another tragedy is how many people trust the police. Take a look at this. From a survey. The survey is saying here, 62% in new survey trust police to do what is right all or most of the time. This came out February 16th, 2023, and this year. Now, number one, I don't trust polls for the most part. Who says these are accurate? So I don't actually trust this poll. Do you really believe over 2/3 or 66% or 62% of people trust the police to do what is right all or most of the time? Well, they haven't watched any of our YouTube videos. They haven't actually read the news. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, what you see in the news is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, et cetera, of what police actually do wrong and criminal. And even what you see on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter is a fraction of what actually occurs. That's just what is caught on video, and that's what just is released. Multiply that by 100 or 1,000, and we're probably more accurate.
I mourn and cry for this man that lost his life, even though I never met him.
This is Nubia Rodriguez. You may not recognize her, but you almost certainly know the incident she was involved in. 4 years ago, Phoenix officer Paul Rutherford was hit and killed by Nubia's SUV after he ran into traffic without looking. Well, tonight, in an exclusive interview, she tells her story to ABC 15 Chief Investigator Dave Biscobing.
And what you're going to find out, ladies and gentlemen, what you're going to find out is that he ran into her without looking, and she becomes the person who is charged, because the police, they build a case over years to attempt to get justice for their fellow brother, their blue brother, when Nubia Rodriguez did absolutely nothing wrong. They lied, they fabricated evidence, the prosecutors went along with it, fabricated evidence, misled the grand jury, and shredded Nubia Rodriguez's life. And as far as I know, at this point, there have been no criminal charges pressed against any of the police, the captains, the prosecutors who aided, created, and abetted the lies that shredded Nubia Rodriguez's life. She's the only victim here. Well, the person who ran in front of her car, of course, is the victim as well. But she's the victim that was created by the police. Continuing.
This is Nubia Rodriguez. You may not recognize her, but you almost certainly know the incident she was involved in. 4 years ago, Phoenix officer Paul Rutherford was hit and killed by Nubia's SUV after he ran into traffic without looking. Well, tonight, in an exclusive interview, she tells her story to ABC 15 Chief Investigator Dave Biscobing.
It is a story about being wrongly charged, about the ongoing trauma for everyone involved, and holding Phoenix police accountable for trying to turn a tragedy into a crime.
On March 21st, 2019, Officer Paul Rutherford was responding to a minor crash on Indian School Road and 75th Avenue. Then, without warning, he ran out into traffic to cross the road. Now, we paused before the crash. That SUV was Nubia Rodriguez's.
You know, just a heartbreaking situation just from day one.
He jumped in front of me. Like, why would he do that? Why?
And ladies and gentlemen, again, we didn't show, the news didn't show, and I would not show that actually happening, even if the news did. But there was no way that Nubia could have stopped her SUV. There's no way. But they attempted to turn her into a criminal. And you see her emotional reaction. Continuing.
That's Nubia at the scene. After that day, she heard nothing from police. She had no idea they were slowly building a case against her. But then a year and a half later, she got a letter in the mail.
Is there any warning before you get this letter?
None.
Oh, so it's like comes in the mail, or someone serves you?
It looked like junk mail, and that's how I find out. I just essentially
You being charged with negligent homicide.
So the focus is on criminal negligence.
She was indicted for negligent homicide. That can carry years and years in prison.
This is a sad, tragic accident. It has 2 victims.
Correct.
Is that how you see it?
I feel like there's a lot of victims because of this.
Officer Paul Rutherford, Nubia Rodriguez, and the many people who love them both. Victims that she and her lawyer believe haven't gotten the truth, and therefore
And they didn't get the truth. And there's another victim here, too, is Nubia Rodriguez was fostering a child. And she was in the process of adopting that child and giving her an amazing life full of love, support, and family. And as soon as the charges were brought against her by the lies, the despicable lies of the police, of the prosecutors who fabricated evidence so she can get indicted, they ripped her foster child out of her home instantly, just like that. And she hasn't seen her foster child in a long time. It has been years. There are lots of victims here. Everyone needs to be criminally held responsible and accountable who created and built this case of lies against Nubia Rodriguez. Because she did the mortal sin, the most extreme egregious sin, by being involved in something that resulted in the ending of a life of a police officer. Even though she did nothing wrong. You saw that video. He ran right in front of her. There was nothing her, you, me, anyone could have done to prevent what happened. It was the officer who did the actions that resulted. He didn't look both ways. Didn't look. You know, I'm so sorry he has died. But it's something we were taught as young children. Look both ways. Whether we're kids or a police officer. Got to do it. Continuing.
for the chance to fully move on, they're now planning to sue.
And that's what happened to my daughter. You know, there was times when we sat down and we said, okay, if this happens, I go to prison, this will be the plan, this is who's going to take care of you. Having those conversations with the 10-year-old.
So you were having discussions with your 10-year-old daughter. Here's what's going to happen if I go to prison.
I had to.
For you, what does this case come down to?
Well, it comes down to right and wrong. It's right to prosecute criminals, and it's wrong to set up people to be criminals.
This is a copy of the settlement demand, and if the city doesn't settle, they'll file a lawsuit. It states, the Phoenix Police Department made Nubia public enemy #1. It turned her into a scapegoat for Officer Rutherford's death.
because the police hate to ever take responsibility. The cops didn't have to make her into a criminal. Rutherford ran into the road without looking, into an active highway. Just say, you know what? He made a mistake. It was a tragic mistake. But they attempted to find, and they found someone who could be their scapegoat. So even though he made a mistake and ran into the road without looking, they wanted to make someone from the public pay. They wanted to make someone from the public pay, you or me. In this case, it was Nubia. Police culture is completely upside down and backwards. And that's why I'm working passionately, night and day. Not just creating videos, but working with politicians. Again, you may say, I hate politicians. Leroy, I'm not a huge fan of most of them myself. But they are in the position because there are laws and so forth that are in place and Supreme Court decisions that are in place that protect police and let them abuse us. We can overturn any of those. Because laws are simply the opinions of politicians backed up by the use of force. The threat of use of force or the use of force. So we want these laws changed. So I ask you to work with me, and as we do our call banks to the politicians, to let them know what is most important to us in our country. Because this is a national emergency. Domestic terrorism by the big blue gang, the police. Case in point is this story. Continuing.
The city of Phoenix started this malicious prosecution. The city of Phoenix doubled down on this malicious prosecution by hiding evidence from the grand jury.
The claim highlights many of the facts we've shown in previous reports, like police didn't tell the grand jury the truth, they manipulated facts, and they withheld this video evidence from the grand jury who indicted Nubia.
I can't even make this stuff up.
What matters is...
And when a judge finally saw the video 2 years after the charges were brought, the case was dismissed.
Whether he was an officer or not, he ran out in front of her.
Here's something we haven't told you about Nubia yet. She was a therapeutic foster mom. At the time of the charges, she was in the process of adopting a foster child.
I had her for 1 year and 6 months when the indictment came in, and to the day of her birthday, she's super excited. She's a little girl, and she will celebrate her birthday, and I get a call where they essentially say she's being removed because your fingerprint clearance card was revoked on her birthday. We literally had, 15, 20 minutes to pack her stuff.
And this is all on her birthday?
All on her birthday. On her birthday, my daughter is hysterical. We are crying. The entire family is just so upset. And she is saying, did I do something wrong?
Now, with the charges behind her, Nubia has not been able to get info on where she is in the system. Yet another person impacted by this tragedy.
I don't want to take away from the fact that an accident happened, someone lost their lives. But again, we go back to how many victims were, had consequences because of this. And it's just very many. I'm
investigator Dave Biscobing, ABC 15, Arizona.
Now, the Phoenix Police Department declined to comment for this story.
Of course, the Phoenix Police Department declined to comment. And this hits home for me on many, many levels. I'm going to go through the article now. And if you are inspired to contact everybody, the mayor, police chief, the prosecutors, district attorney, we need justice in this. Justice for Nubia Rodriguez. So wrong. Evil happens when good people do nothing. You are freedom fighters because you watch these videos, because you do take action and make the calls, send the emails, post on the Google reviews, the Facebook reviews, the Facebook public government pages, and so forth. I appreciate you. And I just met with an unnamed senator's deputy director yesterday to lead the charge with all of your support that we will be leading it together. Police reform, actual police reform, of getting rid of qualified immunity, of getting rid of internal investigations, or actually more accurately, requiring external investigations. They could do their bull internal investigations all they want, but they will be completely irrelevant and do not count. Also, getting rid of police unions. Also, making sure every single police officer is required to wear a body cam. Keep that body cam on. Do not turn it off during the course of their duty. And if they do, it is a felony. They will be subject to immediate arrest, period. And there are more, but that's a beginning police reform platform. And if you would like to add to that, email me now at LeroyTruth247@gmail.com. LeroyTruth247@gmail.com. I want to hear from you. And the next step we need to do is one step in the mix of things. And this is not political. I am not Republican. I am not Democrat. I do not support any particular party for president or senator or congressman or congresswoman. They're all part of the same, two sides of the same coin. However, one step in our journey is to call Senator Schumer's office in Washington, D.C. That is one step. They log these calls, and they have a formula for how many calls they get. Every call represents a certain number of people in the population. My first goal is to get Senator Schumer's office in Washington, D.C., the number is here, 10,000 calls to start with. That will absolutely put this on the radar, because my point as I'm talking to different senators and congressmen is this is a critical and the most important national emergency of our time. It is domestic terrorism of the highest degree. And who are these domestic terrorists? These men and women in blue, in badges, costumes, uniforms that are given weapons and qualified immunity with almost complete impunity, with no accountability as they go about their jobs. And it's getting worse. When body cams came out, you think that would help? No, it's gotten worse. We have amazing auditors and amazing men and women who put it all on the line, and they're sharing commentary and analysis and going out in the field on YouTube and other social media platforms. You think it would have gotten better, but it has gotten worse. So we the people demand actual police reform, and it has got to come from a federal level. We can do videos for the next 100 years, and understand it is critical we do them because it exposes the truth. But in and of itself, without a specific strategy and a plan of action, nothing's going to change. It's getting worse. So I'm asking all the auditors throughout the entire country to come together and join me in working with and demanding from our senators and our congressmen actual police reform change, not some watered down version. We're in charge. We the people are the bosses of these politicians. They are the public servants. That's why that label is there. But if we don't hold them accountable and demand that they do our bidding, protect and serve us, they will keep protecting and serving them and their special interests and the police unions. So let's continue with the story. Now, years after Nubia Rodriguez was charged, illegally, criminally charged by Phoenix police for being responsible for that police officer having lost his life. A judge who actually looked at the facts dismissed the criminal case against Nubia Rodriguez, who was charged in the death of Phoenix police officer Rutherford. Let's take a look here. A Maricounty County Superior Court judge dismissed the criminal case against the woman who was charged with negligent homicide in the on-duty traffic death of Phoenix police officer Paul Rutherford. After a 3-day hearing, and I'm not going to call any judge honorable. So what makes them honorable? If they do the right thing, they're honorable. Most of the time, they don't do the right thing. So it would be more accurate to say the dishonorable so-and-so judge. In this case, Judge Joseph Creamer found the state lacked probable cause in the years-long case against Nubia Rodriguez. This is from ABC15.com. I am so sorry for the loss of Officer Rutherford, and I wish I wasn't here giving the news to his family, but I am. And I'm sorry that's the case. I'm also sorry for the pain that has continued for others, including Ms. Rodriguez. But I have to rule as best I can on the evidence that is in front of me. Now, he ain't so honorable here. Listen to what his words were. I'm sorry. See, I wish what wasn't here giving the news to his family. He wishes he wasn't here giving the news to his family. What's that news? I'm sorry, family, but I can't find this person guilty. I really wish I could, but the evidence is so blatantly clear that the police lied with complete corruption and depravity on truth and protecting and serving and being in integrity. They so profoundly lied, so I'm not able to find this person guilty. I wish I had better news for you, family. Got to read between the lines. You have to read very carefully and with very critical analysis when you read any of these news stories. And when you hear these judges and chiefs of police and mayor parsing their words like this. I'm going to say this again. I am so sorry for the loss of Officer Rutherford. Understand that? And I wish wasn't here giving the news to his family. But I am. And I'm sorry that's the case. So again, sorry, I couldn't find her guilty. I mean, I could have technically because judges have almost no accountability either. But I guess he was maybe afraid of getting reelected or something. But I have to rule as best I can on the evidence that is in front of me. Well, not just the evidence that's in front of you, the truth. The judge added, what matters is Rutherford appeared from a place he shouldn't have been to a regular driver. Whether he was an officer or not, he ran out in front of her. Nubia Rodriguez burst into tears as Creamer announced his decision, the nightmare that she had been enduring because of the extreme corruption of the Phoenix police, from the chief down to the beat officer on the street. Everyone who was part of this corruption and cover-up and lies needs to be held criminally responsible. And I suggest, hey, if you want to tell them what a great job they did in lying and building a false case against Nubia Rodriguez for criminal negligent homicide, if you want to tell them what a great job they did, call them. Number's here, and it's in the description. Continuing. Members of the Rutherford family and other officers who attended the hearing remained silent and quickly left the courtroom after the judge's ruling. Did they know they were lying? You know what? Maybe I think initially they knew they were lying, and I'll bet after a time they actually convinced themselves that they were not lying and that Nubia Rodriguez was the criminal. It was a relief. I feel like I can finally breathe. I can move forward with my life, Rodriguez said in a brief interview following the hearing. Her nightmare finally came to an end. This has been a very difficult process. It's been 3.5 years. Aside from the financial losses, I was in the process of adopting my foster daughter, which she got removed on the day of her birthday, and so I haven't seen her in a very long time. You realize, I mean, I know you do, because as a viewer of my videos and others like this, you understand truth. You understand what is right and wrong. And police officers, one would think, as according to the survey, at least 62% of people, even now with all the news of the police corruption, still think the officers will do what is right. All or most of the time. Nothing could be further from the truth. Not only was this woman's life ripped from her, her reputation destroyed for the rest of her life. She did nothing wrong. She was the victim here. Absolutely. Also, her foster daughter was the victim. Nubia Rodriguez, an incredibly loving woman to her foster daughter who wanted to nurture and give her an amazing life, had her daughter ripped from her life. This daughter who loved and cared for Nubia, which was her mother figure, and she wanted to be officially her mother, was ripped from her life. Imagine the trauma of that little child. Suddenly she has no mommy. This is some of the most extreme negligence, or not negligence, that was a wrong word. Some of the most extreme criminal behavior I have seen from police. And it will have reverberations throughout Nubia's life, throughout her foster daughter's life, if she ever gets her back. and many, many other lives for decades to come and for the rest of Nubia's life. Continuing. On March 21st, 2019, Rodriguez hit Rutherford in the two-way turn lane on Indian School Road near 75th Avenue. Rutherford, who wasn't wearing a safety vest, was working a traffic accident when he suddenly ran into traffic without looking both ways. But the police still wanted to get blood. They wanted Nubia's, even though she was completely innocent. Last month, the high-profile case was remanded back to the grand jury because the court found police and prosecutors presented false testimony. Every one of those people has to be arrested, tried, found guilty. It's been found. The court found. This is not even conjecture. They found police and the prosecutors. They're just as bad as the police. They're on the side of the police, not of you and I. They're not on the side of truth. The court found police and prosecutors presented false testimony, meaning they lied, and biased evidence to jurors in order to get the charges. And as someone one time said, anyone can get indicted. You can indict a kumquat. You can indict a cantaloupe. It's so easy to bring up charges. They were a lie. This whole thing should have never happened. And they all need to be criminally charged. Continuing. Rather than re-present the case to a grand jury, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office decided to bring the matter before a judge in a preliminary hearing. More than a tragedy, it is criminal extremism from a blue gang on every level, from the police chiefs to the lieutenants, captains, sergeants, every cop who was part of this, and every prosecutor, and everyone who worked for the prosecutors who supported and aided and abetted this travesty of justice, this extreme criminality. Why I do what I do, ladies and gentlemen, is to hold the light of truth to as many of these situations as possible. So we, the people, you and I collectively, can hold them accountable and to get justice for people like Nubia Rodriguez. So she's suing them now. But I'm going to also look into how either we or her or someone can file criminal charges against every single person, from the top of the chain of command to the bottom and to the prosecutors. How we can get them arrested. We can get them tried. We can get them found guilty. And they do prison time because of their lies. This is Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigation. I so appreciate each of you. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. Please share this video. Ask your friends to subscribe so we can get the word out to even more and more people. And hold our police and the mayors and every public official accountable so they once again, through the vision of our founding fathers, represent us and don't abuse us. I appreciate each of you. Thank you.